sexually transmitted infections in bacteria. So now we talk about the sexually transmitted infections, the infections that are transmitted by close contact in the viruses and one fungi. So sexually transmitted infections does not mean only sexual contact. STIs also mean close contact, close skin to skin, body to body contact like touching. It's close contact also. Okay. So these are our objectives. We have the viruses. First objective, we'll talk about the different viruses that are transmitted by close contact. Then we'll talk about 5 viruses in detail, and then we talk about a fungi, that is the Candida. So there are many viruses that are transmitted by close contact. So 5 of these we'll talk in detail. So you don't have to learn this, just have a look. What are the various viruses? So these are the names of the viruses, and then we have their structure. In the structure you have to talk about whether the virus is DNA or RNA virus. First thing, the virus, it has an envelope. Envelope is the outer covering of the virus. Whether it has an envelope and whether it has DNA or RNA as the nuclear material, and also the family. 3 things here. The family, the DNA or RNA, or the envelope. So to make it easy, of this list, only 2 viruses are RNA viruses. The HIV virus and the hepatitis C virus are RNA, whereas all the rest of the viruses are DNA virus. All the viruses are DNA, only HIV and hepatitis C are RNA viruses. And talking about the envelope, all the viruses have envelope, only the human papilloma virus is non-envelope here. NE is non-envelope. Okay? And these are the names of the families. 5 viruses belong to the herpes virus group. Herpes simplex virus 1 and 2. You have cytomegalovirus, human herpes virus. These are all the herpes viruses. Okay. You have hepatitis B and C that cause hepatitis. So that is the structure of the viruses. The second thing is the pathogenesis. Pathogenesis means how this virus will produce disease in man. Inside the body, how this virus will act. So some of the viruses, their mode of action is by lysis of the cell. Lysis, they enter the virus enters the body cell and breaks down the cell. So that is known as the lysis or the lytic. So some viruses are cytolysis, they break down the cell. Some viruses, when they enter the cell, they make it cancer cell. So that is carcinogenesis. For example, the human papilloma virus and the molluscum contagiosum virus, these viruses change the cell into a cancer cell. Some viruses cause fusion of all the human cells. Nearby cells, there is fusion, and they form a giant cell. That is called as a multinucleated giant cell or syncytium. So multinucleated giant cell or syncytium. Some viruses, they do not cause damage to the cell, like hepatitis virus. So how does hepatitis virus produce disease? The virus itself will not cause any disease. The virus will only enter the hepatocyte. And these hepatocytes will have the virus antigen on its surface. And when the immune cells, like the cytotoxic cells, the natural killer cells, when they are going in the blood, they will see the hepatocyte. And then, because the virus antigen is present on the surface of the hepatocyte, they will think that the hepatocyte is a virus. They will not recognize the hepatocyte as our own body cell. Because this hepatocyte is now having the hepatitis virus antigen on its surface, the immune cells will think that it is a foreign cell, and then it attacks the hepatocyte. So that is immune-mediated damage. or cytotoxic cell lymphocyte mediated damage. Okay. So what are the various ways by which the viruses cause disease? One is cytolysis, that is, it breaks down the cell, that is cytolysis. Second is they convert it into a cancer cell. The virus will convert the cell into a cancer cell, that is the second. The third is this virus will cause fusion of nearby cells, fusion of the cells, that is known as cell-satium, and that will lead to the formation of multinucleated giant cell, a big giant cell. The fourth type is the virus itself will not cause the damage to the cell, but our own body immune cells, like the cytotoxic lymphocytes, will attack the cell and cause disease. So these are the four ways by which the disease is produced, pathogenesis. And these are the diseases that they produce, these viruses. So don't learn this, just have a look at the slides. Here you have to remember whether it is RNA or DNA. So only hepatitis C and HIV are RNA. All the rest are DNA. And the envelope is present in all the viruses. Only the human papilloma virus is non-enveloped. So that is the only thing you have to remember here. And here, remember the four types of damage produced. Then we talk about the HIV virus. As you know, HIV virus will cause AIDS. HIV virus, the full form is human immunodeficiency virus. They call it the human because there is a similar virus that will produce the same AIDS in the monkeys. That is known as the simian. Simian means monkey. Simian immunodeficiency virus. So to differentiate, they call it the human immunodeficiency virus. Immunodeficiency because this virus will attack our immune cells. This HIV virus will attack the immune cells, the T lymphocytes. So when these cells are destroyed, there is deficiency of the immunity. So immunodeficiency virus. So it causes AIDS. AIDS is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. That we'll talk about. So it belongs to the family Retroviridae because this virus has inside a special enzyme that is known as the reverse transcriptase enzyme. There is one term that is known as transcription. Transcription is a word. Transcription means making a copy. From DNA, you make a copy of an RNA. It's known as transcription. But if you make a copy of a DNA from an RNA, that is reverse. So that is known as reverse transcription. Because as we said, this virus contains RNA. So from RNA, they make a DNA. An enzyme makes a DNA from an RNA. So that is reverse transcription. This process is reverse transcription. Reverse. Because transcription is from DNA to RNA. That is the normal thing. We make a RNA from a DNA. That is transcription. But if you are reversing it, we are making a DNA from an RNA. It is reverse transcription.
DNA
and this,
from RNA?
we are making a DNA. Yes.
Yes, you mean RNA from DNA?
Transcription. Originally, transcription is
DNA to
RNA.
Yeah.
That is the normal. But if you are making a DNA from an RNA, that is reverse transcription. So you have, so this is DNA to RNA. This is the transcription. But if you are making from an RNA, you are making a DNA, this is reverse transcription. Reverse transcription. And then it belongs to the subfamily, the lentivirus. Lentivirus because in this group you have the viruses that produce very slow disease, very slow infection. So these are the slow viruses. All the viruses, when you have infection, when the virus enters the body, you get the disease in maybe 3, maximum 6 months, like hepatitis virus. In maximally 6 months you produce the symptoms. But HIV, when it enters the body today, after maybe 12 to 15 years, you will get AIDS. When the virus HIV enters the body, you don't get AIDS immediately. The person, if he gets HIV infection, after 12 to 15 years, depending on his immunity and whether he is taking medicines or not, It is between 10 to up to 20 years, and now they are increasing the time more with better medicines. So now they have increased it to a very long time. So this is a very slow virus because it produces disease very slowly. So it is slow virus and retrovirus. Lentivirus, lenti means slow. It produces disease very slowly, lenti, and retrovirus. So HIV virus has different types. There are type 1 and 2. The most common is type 1, and within the type 1, the subtype A is the most common prevalent worldwide, even India, Saudi Arabia, like that. You have the type 1 is worldwide. So HIV 1, it's A, subtype A. Okay. So the structure of the virus, as we said, it has an envelope. So there is an envelope outside. So envelope has got different proteins. There is one glycoprotein. They have given the numbers. They have not given the names. To make it easy, they have given the numbers. So this outer covering is the envelope. On the envelope, you have glycoproteins. So they have given one number, the glycoprotein 120. And there is one more protein here. So that they have made it the glycoprotein 40. So they have given the numbers. So the envelope has got proteins, glycoproteins. One, they have given the number GP120. One protein, they have given the number GP40, 41. So the function of this protein, glycoprotein, is for attachment. The virus comes near the human cell and attaches by GP120. And after attachment, it causes fusion. Attachment is one thing, and then fusion of the cell and the virus is by GP41. So there is attachment and there is fusion. And inside the envelope you have the icosahedral shell. Icosahedral shell. This is the shell. And inside the shell you have the core. Two things inside. That is known as the capsid. The shell and the core together are known as the capsid. So outside you have the envelope. Inside you have the core and the shell, and within the core and the shell you have the RNA, single-stranded RNA inside, and also you have the enzyme, the reverse transcriptase enzyme. So that is about the structure. You have the envelope. You have the envelope GP120 and GP41. You have the shell. They are also given the protein names like protein 18. And then for the core is protein 24, and then you have the reverse transcriptase enzyme and the RNA inside the core. So that is the structure. And there are many genes that help in virus multiplication, help in the formation of the proteins of the virus. So the virus inside its RNA has different genes. Inside the RNA of the virus there are genes. For example, they have the GAG gene that helps in the formation of the core and the shell of the virus. The importance of these genes is that the different medicines that we take to kill the virus act on different genes. So that is the importance of these genes. And then you have the envelope genes that helps in the formation of the envelope of the virus. Then you have the pol gene that forms the reverse transcriptase enzyme. So these are the main proteins, the structural genes that produce the virus. The GAG gene helps in the formation of the capsid, the core and the shell. The ENV gene helps in the formation of envelope. The pol gene helps in the formation of the enzyme. There are other genes also, like the TAT gene helps in the expression of all the other genes are controlled by the TAT gene, the activating gene. There is also the NEF gene that inhibits viral multiplication. This gene helps to downregulate or inhibit viral replication. And then you have other genes like REB genes that helps in the formation of structural proteins. One more gene is the viral infectivity gene that promotes the infectivity of the virus. So there are different genes present in the RNA of the virus that help the virus to produce disease. So how does the virus now cause infection? So you have the virus is transmitted by sexual contact or close contact or blood transfusion. The HIV enters the body. So the important thing is this HIV should be effective. It should be present inside the cell. The cell-free virus is not much infective. If the virus, if you just put a virus inside another person's body without the cell, so this virus will not be infective. So you should, for infection, you should have the cell containing the virus, the T lymphocyte that is infected by the virus should be introduced in the whole. Did you get my point? Virus only will not produce disease, infection. Virus should be inside the cell. So HIV infected cells will cause infection. For transmission, there should be HIV infected cells, not cell-free virus. Okay. So this virus will attack all the cells that have CD4 receptor. CD4 receptors. There are many cells in the body that have CD4 receptors, but the most important cell that is affected is the T lymphocyte. So this virus will attack the T lymphocyte that has a CD4 receptor. So this virus will attach by GP120, as we said, on the envelope to the CD4 receptor, and then by GP41 it causes cell fusion. So virus attaches to the T lymphocyte, then causes fusion of the cell, virus and the cell, and this, there is uncoating. The envelope is removed. Uncoating means the removal of the envelope of the virus. And then what is remaining is the viral RNA. So this RNA will enter inside the nucleus, inside the cell. It's taken inside the cell, that is internalized, taken inside the cell. And as we said, there is reverse transcription. From this RNA of the virus, a DNA is made. That is reverse transcription, as we said. The viral RNA is changed into a copy of the DNA. And this DNA attaches to the DNA of our own cell. The viral RNA, they made it into a DNA by reverse transcription. And there is one more enzyme, that is the integrase, that will attach this DNA to our cell DNA. So now the virus DNA is now attached to our DNA, our nucleus. Inside the nucleus we have DNA, so it is attached to the DNA. And then it remains like that, latent. So that is why it is a slow virus. It remains like that for many years. And then time to time, this virus will produce daughter cells, and then cause rupture of the cell. So that is lytic infection. It will cause lysis of the cell and release of many more daughter virus particles. And what happens? There is decrease in the T lymphocyte levels. Okay. So there are different stages, 5 stages in AIDS infection, HIV infection. So when the virus first enters our body, there is an acute HIV infection that appears in 3 to 4 weeks, but there will be non-specific symptoms like fever, lethargy, malaise, like that. Non-specific symptoms will be present. Please don't read OSPI in my class. Don't read OSPI. So there is acute HIV infection. So that will be for 3 to 4 weeks, and the patient will have non-specific symptoms. And then there will be a very large asymptomatic phase. The patient will have no symptoms. That is known as an asymptomatic phase. This will be for many years, more than 7 to 11 years. So this is called, that is why this virus is a slow virus, lentivirus. And then after that period, the third stage will appear, wherein the patient will have lymphadenopathy, that is the enlarged lymph nodes. So they will be persistent, means it will be persisting for a long time. Generalized means it will be in more than 2 areas. If there is lymphadenopathy in one area, This is not the generalized lymphadenopathy of HIV infection. So you will have lymphadenopathy in more than 2 sites, and it should be present for more than 3 months. And the site should be extra-inguinal. It should not be in the inguinal area. It should be in other sites other than the inguinal area. And there should not be any other illness present in the person. So that in that case you call it the persistent generalized lymphadenopathy. So that is the 3rd stage. And then the 4th stage is, again you have the AIDS related complex. They call it the ARC. In this stage the patient will have opportunistic infections. What do you mean by opportunistic infections? The patient will have opportunistic infections. That is, now immunity will be getting low, and there will be small infections that will produce disease. And then in the end you will have AIDS. The patient will have AIDS. There is breakdown of the immune system, and then the patient will have many opportunistic infections. So these are the 5 stages. So AIDS is the last stage of HIV infection. So when a person gets HIV infection, he is not called an AIDS patient. AIDS is the last stage that will appear after 15 years or maybe 20 years after AIDS will start. So there is HIV infection, and in the end there will be AIDS. Okay. So in diagnosis, because this affects the lymphocytes, there will be leukopenia and then lymphopenia. The T lymphocyte level will go down less than 2000 per cubic millimeter, and also the CD4 T cells will go down. And because there is no cell-mediated immunity, there will be delayed hypersensitivity. There is type 4 hypersensitivity will be lost, and also there will be hypergammaglobulinemia. T cells are not working, so the antibodies, immunoglobulins, will try to increase their number. So there will be increased immunoglobulins levels. And also for diagnosis, you can detect the core antigen, that is the P24 antigen, or you can isolate the virus in culture, or you can do antibody tests like ELISA, Western blot, and also PCR. Yes?
If, after 1 month of get infected,
Yes.
can we identify PCR or specific?
PCR, because PCR will see, there are different tests. PCR will see the viral RNA. The P24 antigen will detect the antigen present on the core. And then there are tests for antibodies. What we normally do in the laboratory is we test for the antibodies. We do this test, ELISA. Normally if you go and do HIV testing, what we do normally do is ELISA testing. So ELISA testing will take time to be positive. Maybe it's 3 to 4 weeks or maybe 6 weeks it will become positive.
After get infection?
After infection, ELISA will become positive after 6 weeks, ELISA. But if you want to detect the infection earlier, you have to do the P24 antigen detection or the PCR. PCR is very expensive and not done everywhere. Maybe in 1 or 2 hospitals or 3 hospitals they do the PCR for HIV. Very low, very less. So more commonly they do the P24 antigen. So this will be positive in the initial phase also itself. For example, in the first week, second week itself, you get the positive result for detection. Then you have the human papilloma virus. As we said, this is the only virus that is non-enveloped, and then it is again a DNA virus. Belongs to the family Papovirus family. So all these viruses are transmitted by sexual contact or genital contact. This virus will form papillomas. Papillomas is outgrowth or proliferation of the cell. What is a papilloma? Papilloma is a swelling, big swelling or patch-like swelling are known as papillomas. So this virus will cause papillomas. Papillomas are also called as warts. Warts. You can see that in the other slide. So they will produce warts. they will produce warts. So this, the site of infection is they infect the squamous epithelial cells of the skin and the mucous membranes. And when they enter those cells by close contact, they produce proliferation of those cells. Proliferation means multiplication, increasing number, and also they cause carcinogenesis. This virus will produce a cancer, that is the cervical cancer in females and also the penile cancer in males. So when they enter the cells, one characteristic feature is that this virus will produce a vacuole inside the cell. So these cells are called as the coilocytes. This helps in identification. When you see it under microscope, these cells will have a big vacuole inside. So those cells are known as the coilocytes. So pathogenesis, how it produces disease. So this virus has some genes known as the E6 and the E7 genes. This human papillomavirus HPV has genes known as E6 and E7. These genes will produce proteins, and that proteins will inhibit the proteins that are produced by P53 and the retinoblastoma gene. There are P53 and retinoblastoma genes. These genes will prevent cancer. These are the anti-cancer genes inside our body.
Yes.
But these genes produced by the virus HPV will inhibit the P53 and the retinoblastoma genes. So what will happen? A normal cell now will change into a cancer cell because of the genes produced by this virus. Okay. So remember, the mode of infection is by close contact or sexual contact. This virus will affect the cells are the squamous epithelial cells. The cells affected are squamous epithelial cells. So initially they will produce a big vacuole inside the cell, and this cell will be known as the coilocyte. And the genes of the virus then will inhibit the P53 and the retinoblastoma genes, and this will become a cancer. Okay. So there are different types. There are more than 100 types of human papillomavirus. So some specific types will produce specific disease. If a person is infected by HPV 1, 2, 3, 4, he will have the skin warts. Skin warts are the papillomas. So these are the overgrowths of the skin, squamous cells. There is proliferation. This virus will cause proliferation as well as the cancer. Proliferation is multiplication. So what happens? There is many multiplication of the cells. There is a papilloma, like this papilloma.
Wow.
There will be like small tags. The other virus. So these are non-malignant. We can also have these warts on the skin. You know, there will be small warts like overgrowth. Many people will have it. So those warts, have you seen it? Warts. It's not very common, warts on the skin. There will be loose tags of the skin.
Yes.
So the warts are very common. So HPV 1, 2, 3, 4 will cause benign papillomas or skin warts. There are 6 and 11 that will cause genital warts, warts in the genital area. These will be in any place of the body, and these are the genital warts by HPV 6 and 11. So there is one more name, that is condylomata acuminata for these genital warts. And there is specific type 16 and 18 that will cause cancer of the cervix. So diagnosis is most commonly by clinically. When you see the warts, you will know that this patient will have, because this is the most common infection by human papillomavirus. Clinically, one more thing is the acetic acid. So you apply 5% acetic acid to the lesion. The area, the skin and the mucous membrane, they will change to white color. If they are pre-malignant, they will change to white color. So that is also diagnosis. And you can see, take a smear from the patient, yes.
Change to white color, huh?
Change to white color.
How?
These lesions, you apply acetic acid. There is acetic acid solution chemical. You take a cotton swab, dip it in acetic acid. Just first, don't look at the phone. Dip it in acetic acid and then apply it to the lesion. And if the lesion has human papillomavirus infection, these lesions will change to white color. If there is no human papillomavirus infection and they are not pre-malignant, they will not take the color. But if they are pre-malignant, they will change to white color. You take a smear from the lesion and you can see the coilocytes, whereas there is a large vacuole surrounding the nucleus. As we said, these cells will cause a big vacuole inside the cell, so that is known as a coilocyte. And also you can detect by PCR or DNA hybridization test, you can detect the nucleic acid.
So, big vacuoles, cleocyte mean?
Yeah, this is the coilocyte. This is our body cell
Big vacuole.
that is infected by the human papillomavirus. This is the cytoplasm that is pushed to the periphery. And this hole is the vacuole. This is the big, from here to here, this is the vacuole. This green arrow is showing the vacuole. This white hole is the big vacuole. This is the cytoplasm. Because of the vacuole, it is pushed to the periphery outside. This is the cytoplasm, this is the vacuole. And this is the nucleus of the cell. So this cell, if you see it in the microscope, in a pap smear taken from the patient, so this is the coilocyte. Okay. Then you have the herpes simplex virus type 2. So HSV, there are two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 will produce diseases in the upper part of the body, type 2 will produce diseases in the lower part of the body, basically. And these viruses will produce vesicles. Vesicles is a small swelling that is filled with fluid. A small swelling that is filled with fluid is vesicle. Okay. In dermatology, there are different names. So if there is a small swelling that is filled with fluid, it is a vesicle. Vesicle is very small. If it is bigger, it is a blister. You know, in burns patient, there will be swellings filled with fluid, but that are very big. So that are in the burns, it is called as a blister. But here, in this infection, there will be very small swellings filled with fluid. Small. Okay, so this causes vesicles. It belongs to the family herpes virus. Again, they also produce latent infection. That means the patient will have infection today and then he will be asymptomatic for a very long time. But the virus will still remain inside the body. And whenever the patient has any other infection or his immunity is getting low, this virus reactivation occurs. Virus that is present inside the body will again get reactivated. Again, vesicles are formed. So, every herpes virus has a special place to hide for latency. This herpes virus, herpes simplex, is latent in the neurons, in the ganglia. So, infection is the skin. In the skin, it will produce the vesicles. From the skin, through the neurons, it will go and stay in the ganglia, sensory ganglia. The sacral and the lumbar ganglia. You know, there are ganglia. From the skin, the nerves will go and there is a ganglia and then there is the spinal cord. You know, there is a spinal cord and there will be ganglia here. So this ganglia, the virus will be staying. So again, as you know, this is envelope virus and this is a DNA virus. And for identification, this virus will undergo multiplication inside the nucleus. So when you see under microscope, they are known as the intranuclear inclusions. This virus will enter our cell and go inside the nucleus and multiply inside the nucleus. So when you see it under microscope, they are called as intranuclear inclusions. So that helps in identification. So again, for all, like all other viruses, mode of contact is sexual contact or perinatal infection. What is perinatal infection? Perinatal. Peri means around. The natal means during the time of delivery. When the baby is coming out through the vaginal delivery, if the mother has vesicles in the genital tract, the baby can get infection. Okay. So when the virus infects first, so the person will have vesicles on the skin, and then the virus will go and stay in the ganglia, sensory ganglia of the lumbar region or the thoracic region, and then will get reactivated again. In both primary infection and the reactivation, both times the lesion is a vesicle.
You said
Yes.
pathogenicity.
So there is the disease first, and then there is asymptomatic period. Quiescent means the virus is silent,
Yes.
not doing anything. So first the acute stage, then the silent stage, and then reactivation again. Okay. So reactivation can occur many times. So person will have vesicles, and then there will be silent phase, and then if there is any other infection, when the immunity is low, this reactivation will occur. So for multiplication, replication, the virus will attach to the host cell at the site of the fibroblast growth factor. There is a fibroblast growth factor inside our body that attaches to the cell. So there is a receptor for that. So this virus will use that receptor, the fibroblast growth factor receptor, and attaches to the host cell, and the envelope is removed. This virus DNA will then enter the nucleus, and because it is already a DNA, from DNA to RNA is transcription. So from this DNA, viral mRNA is produced. That is transcribed or transcription. Okay, viral mRNA. What is the function of mRNA? It's translation of proteins. It makes proteins. So this viral mRNA will go outside into the cytoplasm and make proteins. What proteins? That proteins that are part of the virus structure, viral structural proteins. One more protein that it produces is a DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase. So this DNA polymerase, what does it do? It causes replication of the viral DNA. There are two enzymes. One is RNA polymerase. That will form a DNA, converts it into an RNA. That is known as the viral polymerase. Okay?
Here.
This RNA polymerase. RNA polymerase is from the host cell. Our body has RNA polymerase. It will make an mRNA from the viral DNA. This mRNA will produce the proteins and also the DNA polymerase. The DNA polymerase will make copies of the viral DNA. So now there are DNA available and also the structural proteins that are produced in the cytoplasm. So viral proteins are there, viral DNA is also produced. After that there is assembly. That means putting together viral DNA and also the proteins together. So new daughter viral particles are formed inside the nucleus. So all this can be seen as intranuclear inclusion bodies in the microscope. We can see them, intranuclear inclusion bodies. And then now the virus is ready. Virus has got the DNA and also the proteins for the capsid. While it is going out from the nucleus, it will take part of the nuclear membrane and form an envelope. This nuclear membrane will form the envelope for the virus. Okay. Now it has got the envelope also. It will come into the cytoplasm, and through the tubules of the endoplasmic reticulum, it will go outside of the cell. Okay. Through the tubules, endoplasmic reticulum will have the tubules.
Yes.
Through the tubules, this virus will go outside the cell. So first it attaches at the site of fibroblast growth factor, then the envelope and the core, everything is removed. The virus DNA enters the nucleus. The virus DNA is changed into mRNA. A copy is made of the mRNA by the RNA polymerase of the cell. And this mRNA will also produce the structural proteins.
Yes.
And these proteins will be produced in the cytoplasm. The DNA polymerase will make copies of the virus DNA inside the nucleus, and then there is assembly, putting all things together. And then the envelope is from the nuclear membrane. and through the endoplasmic reticulum this virus will come out. Okay. So again the same thing. The main region is the vesicles, small vesicles. You know, like pimples, but there will be fluid inside. So these are vesicles. So the first infection is the skin or the mucous membrane. That is a primary infection. There is application and then vesicle formation, and then there is latency. That means the virus will remain quiet in the sensory ganglia, and then again there will be reactivation. So these can produce the genital herpes, the vesicles in the genital area. In the newborns, when a mother has infection and the newborn is passing, because they have very low immunity, they can have a disseminated herpes, newborn babies, and also they will have meningitis. Newborn babies can have meningitis also. There is one slide. Why did you not put it? So it's the diagnosis of the herpes. So herpes again is diagnosed clinically by lesions. Maybe I'll put this slide again. By the lesions, and also there will be a microscopy. You will do a Zank smear. Zank smear, as we said in the first slide, this virus infection causes multinucleated giant cells. So when you see a Zank smear, you will see multinucleated giant cells. So remember, for diagnosis, how you diagnose? You take a swab from the vesicle or take the fluid from the vesicle and see it under microscope. That is known as a Zank smear. You will see multinucleated giant cells. Because there is cell-to-cell fusion. We discussed in the first slide.
Yes.
There is syncytium, there is cell-to-cell fusion. They form multinucleated giant cells. What happened? Where did it go? Straight. So the next virus is the cytomegalovirus. So cytomegalovirus again belongs to the herpes virus. So it also causes latent infections like primary infection latency and then reactivation, like herpes virus. Because this also belongs to the herpes virus group. But the site of latency is different. In those, it was the sensory ganglia, the herpes simplex. Here the site of latency is the salivary glands. The salivary glands in the mouth is the site of latency. Again, this is a DNA virus and then envelope. Okay. So they produce latent infection, and then this cytomegalo means, the word cyto means cell, megalo means enlargement. So the main property of this virus is that it causes the enlargement of the cells.
Okay.
So that is why it is known as the cytomegalovirus. Causes enlargement of the cell. Yes.
دكتور cytomegalovirus لسه برجله latency.
Yes.
Latency of the cytomegalovirus in the salivary gland.
Salivary gland latency.
Herpes where?
Which one?
Herpes.
Herpes latency is the sensory ganglia. The sensory ganglia of the lumbar and the sacral region. This is sensory ganglia. Lumbar and sacral region. And also, like herpes virus, they also form intranuclear inclusion bodies, and then they cause enlargement of the cells also. So that is why they are known as cytomegalovirus. So in different stages, if the mother is infected, if the mother transmits the infection to the fetus, so this fetus will have three important features. There will be a very shortening of the head, that is known as the microcephaly. And you know, the most common cause for congenital malformations. What are congenital malformations? Congenital malformations.
Abnormality in the during
Present,
delivery.
the congenital means
During
the
birth.
diseases or disabilities that are present since birth. When the baby was born, he was having disability, that is congenital malformation. So this is the most common cause of congenital malformation. The cytomegalovirus is the most common cause, congenital malformations. So congenital malformations can be microcephaly, or there will be chorioretinitis, or there can be calcification in the brain, and also the baby can die. In the adults and also in the children who are healthy, there is very mild infection or asymptomatic infection. But in people who are immunosuppressed, and especially this is a very important cause of infection in transplant patients, patients who are getting kidney transplant or liver transplant, this causes infection in those, in the transplant patients. So normal people, it will have only minimal infection or asymptomatic, they will be asymptomatic. Okay. So when the cells, when you see in the microscope, you will have the enlargement of the cells, that is known as the cytomegaly, a cytomegaly. And also in the nucleus, they will have intranuclear inclusion bodies that will look like an owl's eye.
Also.
You know the owl?
Yes.
So like the owl, it will look like the owl. So this is the owl's eye appearance in the nucleus that you see. And also you can do antibody testing for the patient in serology. Then you have the hepatitis. Hepatitis B and C viruses. They are also transmitted by sexual contact. C is less common by sexual contact, more of the blood transfusion. Whereas B is more of sexual contact and blood transfusion. The structure is, again, it is an envelope. When you take the blood of the patient, you will have 3 different particles in hepatitis B virus. There will be spherical particles, tubular, and the main virus particle. So this main virus particle is known as the tail particle. It will have all the 3 antigens, surface, envelope, and the core antigens. Whereas spherical and the tubular will have only the surface antigen, HBsAg. The hepatitis C virus, as we said, it contains the RNA. Like HIV, it has the RNA. The other viruses have the DNA. So the pathogenesis is immune mediated. That means the virus itself will not cause any disease, but the virus will produce the antigens that will be on the surface of the hepatocyte. And the cytotoxic lymphocytes and the natural killer cells, when they are circulating in the blood, they will see the hepatocyte and they will attack the hepatocyte. So this is immune mediated damage. So a good immune system is necessary to cause the findings of hepatitis. If the patient does not have immune system, he will not have the disease. So a good immune system is necessary. So what will be the symptoms in acute stage? Yes, Abdul Majid, you are late. The class is over. So in the acute stage, you will have the fever, anorexia, patient will have nausea, vomiting, and the most important is the jaundice or icterus due to high bilirubin levels. And also the urine will be dark because of the presence of bilirubin in the urine, and then the feces will be pale. And in the chronic stages, it can lead to cirrhosis or cancer of the liver, hepatocellular carcinoma. So there are various surface markers present for the hepatitis B. So there is a surface antigen, that is the first marker that appears in the blood. Surface antigen is the hepatitis B is the surface antigen. So that is the first marker that appears. Along with the surface marker, you also see the envelope antigen, HBE. HBC is also a marker, but it will not appear in the blood because it is hidden in the hepatocyte. So the only 2 antigens that appear in the blood are the surface antigen and the envelope antigen. Envelope antigen marks the infectivity of the virus. And if the person is vaccinated, he will have the surface antibody in his serum. The surface antibody, because the vaccine will contain only the surface antigen. The hepatitis B virus vaccine that is the surface antigen, so the person will have the surface antibody in his blood. So there is the core antibody. This core antibody will be present from about 8 weeks, and it is again differentiated into IgM and IgG. IgM will appear in the acute phase. So IgM antibody will say it is acute infection. If there is IgG antibody, it is prior infection or past infection, like that. And hepatitis E antigen is a marker of infectivity. If the person has high levels of E antigen, that means he is highly infectious. Okay. Then you have the Candida. So the Candida is a fungi, and the structure is a yeast-like fungi. This is not a true yeast. The shape is a yeast-like fungi, and this is a normal commensal on the body. It is present as a normal flora. So it is an ovoid, oval budding cell, and characteristic feature is that it produces pseudomycelia, or pseudohyphae. So these are the pseudohyphae, because the true hyphae are produced from the conidia, but these hyphae are coming from the yeast cells, so that is why they are called as the pseudohyphae. Also, you can do a gram stain. In the gram stain, they will appear as gram-positive budding yeast cells. So what do they produce? So this is an endogenous opportunist pathogen. Why do you call it the endogenous? It is already present as normal flora, so it is endogenous. And opportunist because if the body's immunity is low, due to various causes like there is decreased cell-mediated immunity, or the patient has diabetes, or he is using antibiotics. Antibiotics also will decrease the normal flora of the bacteria, letting these fungi to overgrow. If there is increased bacterial pH due to bacterial infections, there is one Gardnerella vaginalis bacteria in the genital area. If there is overgrowth, there will be increased pH. If the patient is pregnant, female patient, or if she has catheter inside the urinary tract. So these foreign body will cause this candida to overgrow, and when they overgrow, they will produce disease. So this candida has a glycoprotein on its surface that helps in attachment, and also there is an enzyme that it produces, the proteinase, aspartyl proteinase, that helps in elevation of the candida into the tissues. So for candida, remember, it is normal flora, it is an endogenous opportunistic pathogen, it is a budding yeast cell, it produces pseudohyphae. And the infections that it produces are, it produces the vulvovaginitis, the inflammation of the vulva and the vagina. So it will be, there will be an acidic discharge. You can use a litmus paper and check for the acidity of the discharge. So there will be acidity, decreased pH of the lesion, and then there will be discharge. And also in the mouth it will produce white patches. So these white patches are known as thrush. It is a type of pseudomembrane. And also in the areas where they are moist, if you immerse your hands in water for a long time, what will happen? If people who are working in the water for a long time, they will have, in the web spaces, they will see white patches. So that white patches are due to the candida infection. Because there is overgrowth of the candida that will cause an infection. And in people who have, forget from last minute. So in people who are immunosuppressed, these people will have disseminated infection, widespread infection. People who have good immunity will have local infection like the thrush or the vaginitis, but who have decreased immunity, they will have disseminated lesions. For example, to the heart, they have endophthalmitis, and for endocarditis like that. Okay. You can take a swab from the lesion, and also you can see the microscopy. You can do a wet film or gram stain, as we said. You can also do a Sabros dextrosagar, wherein you see a cream whitish colony. Conmilaga is another culture medium used for candida, where it produces spores that are called as candidospores. There is one germ tube test that will detect the formation of pseudohyphae, and also you can do a skin test, that is a delayed hypersensitivity to by Candida antigens.